We begin with the latest on the new emails released by House Democrats relating to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. They are raising questions about what Donald Trump knew about Epstein's conduct. Katie Nicholson has been following this story for us from Washington. So, Katie, walk us through these documents that were released today.
Yeah, so Sarah, the House Oversight Committee has obtained thousands of documents from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. This morning, what happened is that the House Democrats on the committee released 3 of those emails that mentioned the U.S. President Donald Trump. So Trump and Epstein, they have a well-documented friendship, which started to go south back in 2004, reportedly over a real estate squabble. Democrats say that the emails that they released raise questions about what the White House is hiding in terms of the Epstein files, which, of course, a number of people in Donald Trump's own base have asked to be released. These are the DOJ's sort of federal investigation files into Jeffrey Epstein. The Democrats said that the emails that they released sort of exposes a bit of the nature of the relationship between Epstein and the president. In one email from 2019, when Epstein was months away from a federal sex trafficking charge, he writes to journalist Michael Wolff, and he says this about Trump. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Ghislaine being Ghislaine Maxwell, his convicted co-conspirator in these sex trafficking charges. Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now behind bars. The Republicans accuse the Democrats of cherry-picking those 3 emails from the trove that they had. And, you know, without more context, it is really hard to draw conclusions here. So what the Oversight Committee decided to do, they just released more than 20,000 documents, all manner of Epstein's correspondence now basically public purview with many, many entities that Epstein spoke with over the years. And, you know, lots of those documents mention Donald Trump, but they also mention lots of other things. A real jumble of documents that many people are poring over right now. But here's the thing. On a day when everyone was going to be talking about the possible end of this historic government shutdown and the return of the House, this really got everybody talking about Epstein again, which it's really an issue that hasn't gone away, even though the House hadn't sat now for, or hadn't been sitting for 54 days.
So, Katie, what is the White House saying about all of it?
Well, of course, the White House is forcefully pushing back on the implication there's anything untoward here in these emails. Earlier today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that that they felt they are being very transparent, and they called this a manufactured hoax. Here's a little more of what Caroline Leavitt said today.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room.
And you know, Sarah, possibly this potential end of the government shutdown was always going to be eclipsed by the Epstein files question that sort of loomed over Congress. This is all happening as the House reconvened, and Adelita Grijalva was finally sworn in after 7 weeks. Significant because she was presumed to be the 218th vote needed to force a floor vote, on legislation to prompt the Department of Justice to release its own federal Epstein files. So tonight, the Democrat from Arizona said she was doing just that.
House Democrats released more emails showing that Trump knew more about Epstein's abuses than he previously acknowledged. It's past time for Congress to restore its role as a check and balance on this administration and fight for we, the American people. That's what the American people expect us to do. Fight for them. That is why I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files.
So supposing nobody pulls back their vote, there were 4 Republicans that signed up for this measure. There could be a vote on this in the House by early December, but of course then it has to go to the Senate and eventually land on the president's desk for a signature to become law. So a bit of an uphill battle there, to put it lightly.
Katie Nicholson in Washington, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so for more on this, I want to bring in Andra Gillespie. She's a political scientist at Emory University, and she joins us from Atlanta. Andra, thanks so much for your time tonight. Obviously, you've been paying close attention to the news throughout the day, I assume. What's your main takeaway from what you've seen?
Well, it's not surprising that this would erupt at this particular moment. It's also not surprising the postures that the administration has taken. I think the big questions that come from this is whether or not this actually sways anybody's public opinion. And I think it's highly doubtful that it does. So to put this in context, most Americans disapprove of the way the Trump administration has handled the release of the Epstein files. And a very strong majority of Americans actually want to see the Epstein files released. There is a way that this is cutting across partisan lines. So Democrats certainly want this, but there's also a subset of Republicans who had been activated, perhaps by conspiracy theories, over the course of the 2024 election cycle to think that there was something amiss in the Epstein case and they wanted greater transparency. And so that's part of the reason why you see strange bedfellows in terms of Democrats aligning with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, very strong MAGA affiliated Republicans, along with Thomas Massie and Nancy Mace, to push for the release of these files. The Trump administration probably has a little bit of a reprieve in that they are trying to spin this to say, this is just a distraction from the Democrats having held up the government and shut it down for 6 weeks. But this was inevitable because of the decision to not seat Adelita Grijalva until today. So everybody knew that she was the 218th vote. And the Trump administration, President Trump, there was a meeting with Lauren Boebert to try to convince her to withdraw her signature from that discharge petition. So I think the question that a lot of people have from this is, why is there such pressure for Lauren Boebert to not want her name or to not put her name on that discharge petition? So I don't think that this goes away, but I think that most people kind of believe what they already believed about the Epstein files.
How do you think, or what do you make of how Trump's supporters have been responding to this? Do you expect there's going to be any lasting effect to his support base?
Well, I think that people are taking this on a case-by-case and an issue-by-issue basis. And that's an important reminder for us to remember that MAGA is not a monolith. So there are some elements of MAGA that are going to be loyal to President Trump no matter what, and might actually view this as kind of, another type of politicization to try to take down a president whom they strongly support. Then there are those who are going to support MAGA and to support the policies and support President Trump, but who have questions about this particular issue. So, included kind of under the MAGA umbrella are conspiracies about pedophilia. And so if people have concerns about that, that might manifest itself in people wanting to see more of the Epstein files before their curiosity is satisfied. Then there's also the promises that were made during the 2024 cycle about releasing the Epstein files. So I think in some elements of MAGA, they're just trying to hold now members of the Trump administration accountable for the things that they were saying in 2024 about promising to release all of the information in these files.
So Katie touched on this. They now have the 218 signatures that's needed to put this to a vote, though, and she talked about this, it's an uphill battle. Talk to me about that battle. What actually is going to happen next, do you think?
So even if there's a vote that gets this bill out of the House of Representatives, it has to go to the Senate. There's no way I think that you could possibly imagine this as a reconciliation bill that would avoid needing 60 votes in order to get it on the floor. So it's probably dead on arrival in the Senate. But, if there were 60 senators who would want to bring this bill onto the floor for a vote, and it did pass the Senate and it made it to the president's desk, then the president would have the right to veto it. And right now, even if if it were able to pass the House and the Senate, I find it very unlikely that there would be 2/3, of members in both the House and the Senate who would actually vote to override a presidential veto. And so I think the question here is not about whether or not this bill actually becomes law and actually forces the Justice Department to release more evidence. I think the larger question is, does President Trump pay a political price for taking certain positions, and whether or not politically he can be backed into a corner based on kind of the legislative process here.
Andra Gillespie, political scientist at Emory University. Thanks so much for that.
Thank you.